Hey BookTube, it's Nick. So today, from the title you could probably guess we are doing the April wrap-up. I cannot believe that it is already May. What the heck? In April I read 6 books, and that includes 1 graphic novel, 1 novella, and 2 of those were audiobooks. Alright, the first book that I finished actually took me like 2 months to read, and that is Restore Me by Tahira Mafi. This is the 4th book in the Shatter Me series, and it takes place immediately following the original trilogy. So the Shatter Me series originally ended with Ignite Me, and this just came out last year, I believe, and kind of just continues on the series. I'm not gonna talk about really what happens in this book, but the original trilogy follows Juliet, who people can't touch her, her skin is lethal, and she hurts everyone who comes in contact with her and potentially kills them. It's technically dystopian, but these books are so character heavy that there really is just no plot. Like, it's just all characters, which is fine because I love the characters. As long as you know that it's all plot going into it, it's fine. Now, I devoured the Shatter Me trilogy. I read it so quickly, I could not put them down. They're not the best books in the world, but they're so entertaining and I just couldn't get through them fast enough. However, this one took me 2 months to get through, and I really thought that I would get through it super fast because my favorite character has a point of view in this book, but alas, I just finished this in April. So it kind of felt like Tahira Mafi was just kind of making things up as she went along, which, considering that the series was supposed to end with Ignite Me, there's a good chance that's exactly what happened. I only even went back and restarted the original trilogy because originally I had only read Shatter Me for Warner, and even though I had such a great time reading those books, this one just really didn't do it for me. I literally have Defy Me from the library. That's upside down. I have Defy Me from the library. I'm debating on reading it because I just don't think I care about the storyline anymore. Like, this ended on a really big cliffhanger and some serious stuff went down, but like, do I care enough to read this? I don't know. Like, it's short compared, but like, this took me so long to get through. I'll probably start this, but I mean, I feel like there's a good chance I'm gonna DNF it. Whoops. I did end up giving this 3 stars. I don't know if it like deserved all 3 of those stars, but that's just where it's gonna be for now, so. The next book that I read was my first Christina Lauren, and that was Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I devoured this whole thing in 1 day, and it was exactly what I needed because I just wasn't feeling very good that day, but this was super fun. Josh and Hazel met in college, where Hazel continually made a fool of herself in front of Josh. They meet again as adults, and Hazel is determined to get Josh to become her best friend. They end up setting each other up on a string of horrible double dates with other people, and because it's a romance, it's not really a spoiler, they should have been dating each other all along, and eventually they get together. I adored both Hazel and Josh, and while I really liked Hazel on paper, she's super quirky and funny and just extremely out there, I probably would hate her in real life and would not want to be friends with her, but reading about her was very entertaining. I was absolutely smitten with this book and would have given it 5 stars, however I hated the ending. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I just felt like it was really unnecessary and not at all what I wanted from this book, so that was kind of unfortunate because this very easily could have been a 5-star read for me, but I was not happy with the ending. It wasn't a bad ending per se, like I'm sure there are a lot of people that really liked how it ended. It wasn't for me. The next book was a novella as well as an audiobook, and that was And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Frederick Bachman. I gave this one 4.5 stars, which initially I gave it 5 stars, which I said in my reading vlog that I did for that. I'll put it somewhere up here. And I've come to realize that just because a book makes me cry doesn't mean it automatically is a 5-star. This was still an excellent story, and I stand by my 4.5, but I don't really think about it after the fact. This novella is about a man, his son, and his grandson, and the man is slowly losing his mind to dementia. It was beautifully written, but I wasn't very invested in any of the characters until the very end, which, it being a novella, That's okay, but it was still very excellently written and definitely makes me want to read more from the author. After that, I read Sleepless Volume 2, and I gave this one a 4.5 stars. Again, I originally gave this one 5 stars and said so in my reading vlog, but upon further reflection, I have bumped it down just a bit, which I loved it. I still stand by it being an excellent graphic novel, but I still think that I preferred volume 1 a little more, and that one I only gave 4.5, so it wouldn't really make sense for me to give volume 2 5 stars. Sleepless is a short fantasy graphic novel where time is a god and there is a group of knights called Sleepless Knights who do just that. They can either be pledged to the crown or a person, and this series follows Poppy, who is the illegitimate daughter of the late king, and her knight Cyrenaic, who is trying to help stop assassination attempts on her while drifting, which is something that rarely happens, but it's when a sleepless knight slowly loses his mind. The 5th book that I read in April is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I actually buddy read this with Sarah from Simply Sarah, and it was such a fun experience buddy reading for the first time. I ended up giving this 4 stars, which initially on Goodreads I put it as 5 stars, but I did genuinely enjoy this. I don't know if it's necessarily a 5-star in my eyes, so I dropped it down to a 4, but it was still very, very fun. This takes place in a fantasy world based off of the Roman Empire, and the Empire in here is very, very ruthless. We follow 2 perspectives, Laia and Elias. Elias is in an academy who chooses students to become what are called masks, which are basically people trained to be ruthless, highly skilled killing machines. Laia, at the very beginning, so it's not really a spoiler, happens in the very first chapter, her family gets killed, so she is trying to break her brother out of jail because they took him, and their paths cross. I didn't really know anything about this novel going into it, so I'm not going to say more than that because this was such a wild ride. So much happens in these books, and I have never felt such genuine fear for any character's well-being as I have reading these books. Sabaa Tahir is so mean and ruthless to her characters, and like, I knew that they had to have survived because they're on the cover of the 2nd and 3rd book and there's a 4th book coming out, but I've never felt so much suspense reading a book as this one because I didn't know if the characters were going to be okay. Like, she's so mean to her characters. It's crazy, but it was kind of refreshing because I feel like with a lot of YA fantasy, a lot of times there's not really any like repercussions, so this was nice. I don't know if nice is the word I should use, but it was fun. The last book that I read in April is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. In case any of you have been either in the wilderness or a coma for the past month or so, Daisy Jones and the Six has taken the world by storm, much like the author's previous novel, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now, unlike Evelyn Hugo, I only gave this 4 stars, which is still a good rating, don't get me wrong, but I was expecting a bit more. Daisy Jones and the Six is about a fictional band from the 70s and showcases their rise and fall. I did listen to the audiobook while I also read physically, so I kind of got the best of both worlds. And the voice actors did do an excellent job with the audiobook, and I really felt like they brought their characters to life. It genuinely did feel like listening to a real interview instead of just an audiobook. While this was definitely a fun read, I don't really consider it groundbreaking. Billy was super talented, but obviously had some serious control issues in more ways than one, and definitely could be very arrogant, but Daisy really topped the charts at being a whiny bitch. She was very entitled and highly irresponsible. While I was listening / reading, I felt like all the characters were really dynamic. However, once I finished the novel, the only ones that I really think stand out besides Billy and Daisy are Camila and Karen. Like, the rest, Graham, Warren, Pete, Eddie, who I definitely had to look up all their names before this because I forgot Pete and Eddie. They were just kind of forgettable, which Pete didn't have a point of view, so that probably contributed, and Eddie was just extremely annoying. Like, I think I rolled my eyes almost every time Eddie started talking. Overall, it was a really fun experience, and I'm glad I read it. I just don't really see myself itching to reread it or re-listen to it anytime soon. However, I do wish that I could listen to the band's music, and I really wish they were real, and it's a crying shame that they're fictional and I can't just go and buy Aurora from the store. So that sucks. Alright, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know down below what books you read in April and what you're currently reading. See you next time. Bye.